Welcome to Between the Reads, where Black books are shared and celebrated all year long. I'm your host, Audra Russell. There are so many great things going on this year as I continue to amplify Black stories, but I can't do it without your support. Please consider heading over to patreon.com/betweenthereads and becoming a member, or make a one-time donation at www.ko-fi.com/betweenthereadspodcast. Are you ready, boos and bros? Then sit back, relax, and let's get to it. In 2018, Anissa Blair hit her early midlife crisis while working at a job she absolutely hated. With only her passion and determination, Anissa immediately resigned from her position as an executive assistant at a Fortune 100 company. She began her journey of learning to embrace all of who she is. From there, she's never looked back. Anissa became a contributing writer for Rolling Out, a 25-plus-year online media outlet, with her dedicated page providing weekly articles of relevant news that affect the Black community, while also offering uplifting and empowering messages of hope. Additionally, she provided weekly columns for an online site, Beautiful Brown Girls, that offered nuggets of wisdom and motivation to women of color. Since that life-altering change, Anissa now creates relevant and timeless stories of healing, self-discovery, and self-love, stories that need to be told, and she's here to tell them. Simply put, Anissa is a storyteller who strives to be an impactful voice by encouraging her readers to live life to the fullest, even if it's by their own rules. Anissa, welcome to Between the Reads.
That's a pretty good bio. Who is that person you were talking about?
I don't know. Who could that be?
Like, oh, I wrote that? Damn, I sound real good.
Yes, ma'am, you do. Yes, you do. And welcome. This is my first show back since the surgery. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to have you as my first guest after I'm recovering. Hey.
Well, I'm glad you back where we need you.
Thank you.
Wow. I mean, while we know you wanted to take this self-care to the extreme, we're glad you're back. Not on your back, but on your butt, telling our stories and reminding us of the power that we possess by the words that we speak. So thank you.
Well, thank you, ma'am. That's such a warm welcome back. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let's get right to it. Tell our readers what Invisible Lives is all about.
So let me give like a precursor to that so you guys understand why I do the things I do. So I am a coach. I'm a personal life coach. And my specialization is in trauma, especially women who've dealt with childhood trauma. So what I did was, instead of like, people are tired of, quote, self-help books and how I got over it, how I got under it. So I said I wanted to do a different approach with a lot of my clients. Instead of making it a book of do step 1, step 2, and then all the way to step 25, and I promise you, sis, you're going to be happy at the end of all this. I wanted to take books that just share trauma stories and how these particular characters overcame it, as a way of letting people see, okay, I can relate, but I can also see how she did XYZ to get over it. So that's the premise of my books. So with Invisible Lives, I tried to throw everything into the story. I focused heavy on characters with tons of trauma, and trying to figure out how they were going to either let it win or be victorious. So in Invisible Lives, it is the story of two main characters. Olivia is a 34, 35-year-old woman that has denied her sexuality. Through circumstances out of her control, she has chose to go that route of, quote, being in the closet because of some of the stigmatisms that are attached within her family. And of course, ultimately, our Black community as a whole sometimes doesn't embrace, the LGBTQ community. So with her, I wanted her to be at the end of her rope, where from the outside looking in, she had everything going for herself, no reason for her not to be happy. But yet, because of that one huge aspect of her life that she wasn't able to share with anybody, she had depression, eating disorder. She was heavy on mental health, was all out of whack. So my other character is a 17-year-old male that is a product of his environment. He doesn't see any way to go but either to jail or dead. That was his option. That's his options in the neighborhood that he grows in, because this story is based out of Chicago. So I had to bring two troubled characters and strategically have their lives intertwined to where they're able to help each other, unbeknownst to them, help each other.
Yes.
So I hope I pulled it off, sort of.
You did. You did. So my next question was gonna be, where did the idea for the story come from? But now I know, because you're a coach and you wanted to find a way to help people.
Yes.
But without it being like a self-help book.
Without it being a self-help book. Because the first thing after my husband, before I let him read it, I said, so let me tell you, Mama not gay. Because I know you're gonna read some of these sex scenes.
I was like, Anissa, is there like some truth behind this? What are we doing?
No, I had to tell him. I said, babe, you know me, right? We there, right? Okay. So I said, I'm a storyteller. So interestingly enough, this particular character came from my first book, which was Your Husband, My Man, which of course was still on trauma, but it had a hint of adultery, because people just don't wake up one day and say, you know what? I think I'm going to cheat on my spouse. These things come from somewhere. So I wanted to, of course, show characters that are in trauma, hence trauma affecting the bad choices that they're making. So in this particular, my first book, Olivia was that character. And all through the book, I talked about someone named Tony. But of course, being a woman, you're automatically assuming Tony's a man. But she never divulges to anybody that Tony is actually a woman. So I knew 20 plus years ago when I wrote my first book that when, being gay was definitely not anything that you was waving a flag in or posting signs outside your house. I was thinking about this 20 years ago and how relevant that story is, because I always say to all my clients, at the end of the day, everybody wants the same thing, and that's just to be happy. Just to be happy. So I wanted to throw a monkey wrench, because we all know Black love has its issues and white love has its issues. We know what heterosexual love looks like. But let's take ourselves away from that and think about a character who is struggling with that word love and what it means, because what it means for her is not accepting to everybody else.
Right, exactly. So talking about trauma, you do hit on some pretty heavy topics in this book. You've got eating disorders, you've got dysfunctional family issues, you've got suicide, drug abuse, rape, embracing your sexuality, self-acceptance of who you are and your talents. So at any point, and for people listening, she doesn't do it in a gory, unnecessary way. It's just that these facts come out with these characters as they're dealing with their lives. So don't be afraid to pick the book up. But at any point while you were writing this story, were you worried about how you were going to handle these issues in the book?
Hell yeah. I was worried. I mean, you probably have had thousands of authors come on like, I just write for the love of it. Yeah, but you want people to buy it too. So it was this fine line, because I felt so convicted to tell these stories. And I wrote this during COVID, where mental health was, of course, on everybody's minds. Like, are we going to get out of this isolation? How are we going to come out of it once we're out of it? Are we going to be better? Are we going to be worse? So I was concerned, am I giving too many problems? Is this turning into a book where you're like, damn, is anything good ever going to happen? But I also wanted it to show the parallels of life and how life really is, and how, yes, bad shit happens, but if you keep staying on that path, eventually the good stuff is going to come. I know that sounds so cliche, but it is. So I had to take my characters through a lot of turmoil so they can see how it ends. But my biggest struggle through this book, I know you're gonna get me, when I went back through it, was I thought about kind of toning down Trey's personality. I was like, okay, I want this book to be a book that everybody reads, not just, I'm not writing a book for just Black people. You used to hear that saying, Obama's our president.
Right.
No, he's
Right.
president for everybody. So he has to
Right.
make decisions, not just for the Black people. So I was like, okay, did I say nigga like 50 too many times? Was I a little too crude? Like, did I say too many motherfuckers? And,
But it wouldn't be authentic
but then
if you didn't.
I had to check myself because I was like, okay, yes, there's a lesson for everybody to learn from this, but
Right.
am I making white people in particular uncomfortable? And I
And we
sat
don't
down with
really care
myself.
about them now, Trey,
Right,
because
but I had to
we
sit
ain't dealing
down.
with the white gays now.
That's
Come
why I
on.
told you was going to get me. I had to sit down and I had to say, you know what? This is us. Embrace us
Yep.
all.
Mm-hmm.
The good, the bad, the indifferent. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
I made sure none of my niggas was taken out.
Mm-hmm.
I may have toned down a motherfucker or two, but I had to but I had to authentically display Trey because
Yes.
very rarely you're gonna have somebody from the streets using using proper English. It's just not gonna
Right.
happen. Not that they're not
Right.
capable of it. That's just not their lingo.
Right. But it's authentic because you even have him throughout the story, like, try to catch himself. So it's authentic. If you had written him any other way, it wouldn't have been believable. It just wouldn't
Thank
have
you.
been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted him to show growth and that he
Right.
wasn't this thug. He's actually trying to be something that he's not.
Right.
And that you see the progression of him realizing that he does want something different, but now he kind of has a pathway to what that
Mm-hmm.
looks like and how to get
Right.
there.
Exactly. Exactly. So the title, Invisible Lives. Now I have my own interpretation of it.
Okay.
But before I even say it, I'd like to hear how you came up with the title.
I am a firm believer that rarely do we ever expose who we truly are in life. We go through life living it one way based on what other people think it should be, and then maybe if we're lucky enough to have that self assurance, we can at least pull off all those layers and be who we are when we're
Mm-hmm.
behind our sanctity of our closed doors. So I wanted it to be Invisible Lives because from the outside looking in, you had one persona of how they were going to be, but to everybody else, they felt like they were living an invisible life because nobody really knew them for who they really were.
Mm-hmm.
What's your interpretation? Because it might sound,
So,
I might take your interpretation if it's better than mine.
listen, yours is great, but here's what I took from it:
Okay.
that invisible lives is not only what you said, but it's also all the things that happen to us growing up that really affect the way we move. And a lot of times we don't know what is causing people to act that way. So, really, Invisible Lives for me was all the things that happened to, like, Trey's parents when they were growing up and when they got married, and all the things that even happened to Olivia's parents that we really don't even know about, that make them who they are. There's this invisible life that parents have before they have us that we don't really know about, that cause us to act the way that we do. And even with Olivia, she has this life that she grew up with that Tony doesn't know about, that makes her act the way that she acts. And it's those invisible things that people aren't privy to unless we let them in, that make us who we are.
Yes. So we're gonna have to add a big "and" at the end of my description and put yours in there. I
Because
love
I
it.
mean,
I love
and
it.
it really makes you understand, if you can get to that point where you can understand how someone grew up, then it does make you see them differently. And we're going to talk
Yeah,
about that a little
and
bit
that's what it
too.
was. Yeah, and that's what it was all about. It was about embracing our differences and
Mm-hmm.
realizing that the way we are is a product of our environment. It's
Yes.
a product of our experiences. And I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
show how, for example, Olivia came from a very affluent family.
Mm-hmm.
Money was not an object. Education was a priority, and how she, from on paper, should
Mm-hmm.
have had a great childhood.
Mm-hmm.
How it was the exact opposite for her,
Yes.
and how you took Trey that grew up poor, know what it looks like, and his decisions were purely based on his experiences. You know, he had a mother that was strung out on crack, but he didn't understand the why, how it happened. So it was a
Exactly.
lot of details that I wanted to put in there. I just didn't want to tell a story of a crackhead woman who can't take care of her son, or a black man who's incarcerated, because I wanted to make them very human and hopefully sympathetic characters.
Absolutely. So let's go back and talk about Olivia a little
Okay.
bit. She has a twin.
Hmm.
Something happens to him, which we're not going to say what. Y'all
Okay.
read the book and find out. Um, and between what happens to her twin and her parents, who are all about, like you said, presenting the right image to the public, it really takes a toll on her life. So, what inspired her storyline?
What the way I told Olivia's story, I want to inspire people to, one, authentically be who you are. She was trying so desperately to live a life that she thought would be acceptable to everybody else, and she was just miserable, failing miserably with her personal life, and it was affecting every aspect of her life, from obviously her relationship, professionally, because
Mm-hmm.
Olivia had days where she could barely get out the bed,
Mm-hmm.
where she had days where she was looking at that antidepressant like, I can just take this and get away from all this. But she didn't want to have to take an external drug to be able to cope with life.
Mm-hmm.
But Olivia had to, a lot of times, the decisions that we make as adults from our childhood, we also give it a layer of guilt behind it. And Olivia
Mm-hmm.
carried a lot of guilt
A
for a
lot.
lot. I mean, just
A
too
lot.
much. For she want every bad thing that happened to anybody that she loved, some type of way she managed to attach herself to
Mm-hmm.
that problem. And I
Mm-hmm.
had to get her to a place where, when she looked in that mirror, that's why in the beginning of the book it says, do we ever truly accept the reflection in the mirror? Do we
Mm-hmm.
ever just authentically look at ourselves in the mirror and say,
That's who I am.
I'm good? Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the crow's feet, the, the freckles or the moles or the crooked
Right.
smile or whatever, but I'm good. I love
Mm-hmm.
me. But when
Mm-hmm.
she looked in that mirror, which she rarely even looked in the mirror, she didn't like
Mm-hmm.
anything of what she saw in herself. She didn't like herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she was at the point
Mm-hmm.
where she thought suicide was that way out.
Right.
Call it done. Let's tap out.
Right. Yeah. And there's also a powerful message there with Olivia, really with all of them, but especially with Olivia, that when you don't deal with your issues, with your trauma, with whatever has happened in your past, that it trickles out into other areas of your life. And it even blinds you to the good things, to the talents that you have, to the things you've accomplished. Why was it important for you to relay that message to your readers?
Because we first of all, we live in a society that everything is uber negative. Everything is superficial. So we have to now try to be Instagram ready on this end, TikTok ready on this end, and we're always putting ourselves in these different boxes of being something that we're truly not. And
Mm-hmm.
so for Olivia, I had to make sure that everything she went through, there was clearly a problem, but it was a problem that can be solved. Because sometimes when we're in the thick of our mess, our the bad shit that happens to us,
Mm-hmm.
rarely do we even give thought to the good stuff that was coming. So Olivia, by trade, is a very good person. She had everything going for her that she needed to have going for her, but she couldn't see any of that because of the guilt. Um, Her childhood was weighing her down like an anchor, and she couldn't see
Mm-hmm.
past any of the good things. She couldn't get to it because of the bad stuff was of more high level of
Even though
importance
she
to
had
her.
this bomb ass thing that she had this talent, and it was like she just she saw it, she knew it was there, but she really didn't give herself enough credit for it.
But do any of us really do that? Do any of us really
True.
self-analyze ourselves and say, okay, yes, my account, I might have $50 in the bank, but I don't get paid and I don't get paid till Friday. But do we say, but yet I got a refrigerator full of food, my
Right.
power bill is paid, my rent
Mm-hmm.
is paid? Do we ever take that type of approach and say, okay, yeah, I may not have as much money as I want in the bank, but
Right.
everything that I need, I have? We don't do that because we're
Right.
not built like that. So that's how
Right.
she was. Yeah, she had a art gallery that was definitely
Mm-hmm.
Successful. She wasn't wanting from anything from a financial perspective.
Mm-hmm.
She was good,
Right.
but that's all
But
just smoke and
all that
mirrors.
weight, yeah, all that guilt,
Yes,
that was an albatross around her neck that just would not let her
be who she
move.
is. Yeah,
Right, right. And I like that she had a therapist that, it's like she was talking to him for a while and then she just kind of went off on her own and she had kind of stopped visiting. It was my impression, but then
yeah.
she realized, yeah, no, I got to go back because I still got these things that I'm trying to. And it's like it was like for me, what I saw was that she was like, yeah, I have a therapist, but okay, I went to my therapist. I did the visits and I'm okay now. But she didn't really touch what she needed to touch to get better. And that just
Yeah.
goes to show that, you really got to you can't just have a therapist. You have to have a therapist, one that meshes with your personality, two, that's really going to help you dig into those issues that you need to dig into so we can pull that scab off and get the infection out and let everything heal.
And let it heal. And I wanted to definitely, that message was, Black people, we don't want to go to therapy.
No,
We want to
right.
pray on it
Mm-hmm.
and send out a prayer request to the church. You got Big Mama over here on her knees. She ain't been up in about
Mm-hmm.
10 years praying for your
Mm-hmm.
ass.
Mm-hmm. And
When,
doing the self-care and lighting some candles and
girl, I
going
can't
for
stand
a
that.
hike. It's like,
I,
yeah, okay, yeah, I understand y'all. It's self-care, but sometimes the self-care has to go beyond what you do for yourself. Sometimes you need a professional to help you work through some shit, and it's okay.
that's why we like each other. Because I tell my clients all the time, well, hashtag self-care is not you going to go get your nails and your feet done, and it's not you getting a massage, and it's not you getting a facial. Self-care is internal.
Hmm.
Anybody can put a new coat of polish on
Right,
something and make you
right.
feel good for about 2 minutes.
Hmm.
It's that self-care is really about internally getting to where you like
Yes.
you.
Hmm.
And that's what that, but I wanted
There
to,
are levels to the self-care.
okay,
Yeah, I mean,
hello.
the pedicures and manicures, that's part of it, but that's just the external stuff.
That's the easy stuff.
That's the
It's
easy
easy to throw
stuff.
some money
Right,
on
right.
looking good, but when it comes to feeling good,
Yes.
first of all, it's going to take longer than an hour and a half to get your nails done and you get your massage. That is
Hmm.
an ongoing, everyday endeavor that you have to be
Absolutely.
fully committed to if you want it to work. But I
Exactly.
wanted Olivia to battle what we all battle when it comes to making that decision. Do we want to share that
Hmm.
so vulnerable personal side of ourselves to a stranger?
Right. Hmm.
I obviously am a coach, but I'm definitely an advocate for therapy. I'm an
Hmm.
advocate for you finding someone who you can connect to
Hmm.
and let the floodgates open. All the good, bad, all that shit that's
Yes.
weighing you down. Let's sort it out. Let's, put it in different boxes and figure out what we're going to tackle first so that you
Hmm.
can get to that place where you're happy,
Exactly.
or you're striving for
Exactly.
happiness. So that's why I said, if I ever find, I have a therapist. I see my therapist every month,
Hmm.
like clockwork. But Dr. Shepard was like a bomb ass therapist. Like she was
She
like,
was.
she was like my fantasy therapist.
Yes. Yes. She was like, come on now. Every time Olivia went in there, she was like, okay, I'm just going to go in here for a quick minute, do my hour, and I'm done. And every time she went in there, Dr. Shepard was like, so,
She come out a hot mess.
uh, how many times you throw up this time?
Yeah.
What you been doing? Did you do your homework? And she's like, well, no. She's like, look, you are not going to get to the person that you need to get to unless you do the entire assignment that I give you. You got to do the work. She always left there a hot mess, and she had to, and it was like, it wasn't permanent. It was just like, okay, processing everything that you went through. And then what she found is that she was able to, okay, she had her moments where she went through the therapy and she had a couple days where she was down and, she didn't wash her ass for a couple days, but then she was like, okay, I gotta get up
Yeah.
now and I gotta keep going,
Right.
and I think for me, I think it was also one thing I think that she didn't realize, that was my interpretation, is that she was scared to come out as lesbian, not only because of the stipulations that the stereotypes that are attached to it, but because she felt guilty for having, if she came out and she's living this full life open as a lesbian, she feels guilty because her brother came out and it didn't go the same way for him. And I think she felt guilty for
Oh yeah.
being happy with who she was when her brother didn't get that chance to
Well,
do
she
it.
also, and you hit ahead on, but she also didn't think she deserved to be happy. And
Mm-hmm.
we tend to put that on ourselves. Like when something bad happens or we've made a bad decision, we kind of like imprison ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and we
Mm-hmm.
deny ourselves basic things of life, love,
Right.
happiness, because we
Right.
want to punish ourselves. And she was heavy on punishment, she was heavy
Right.
on guilt. And yes, she didn't think that because of what jumped off with Oliver, or she calls him O,
Mm-hmm.
she didn't think that she had a right to happiness because it didn't end well
Right.
for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now I'd like to dig into Trey's character.
Yeah.
And this is where that whole thing of invisible lives comes back into play. He has two parents in the home, but initially, initially he had two parents in the home. They were both became drug addicts. We won't say what happens,
Okay, we won't.
but
Okay.
Trey was under some misconceptions about both of his parents. And because he's holding on to all of that anger, it almost destroys his life.
Yes.
So let's talk about that, because I think it was also ironic that he's holding on to this anger, and he doesn't realize that his parents holding on to their stuff was why he ended up being in the situation that he was in. So let's talk
Absolutely.
about Trey a little bit.
Oh, I love Trey.
Trey is my man. Trey is my man, 50 grand. I love me some Trey.
Trey's like, I'm Trey on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. This is
Friday,
me.
Saturday, and Sunday.
And we can add an eighth day and that
Right.
day.
Right. And he's on that day too.
He said, I loved him because I'm a mother. I have three children. My oldest is soon to be 25.
Okay.
So it was risky for me to decide, because I've been writing just women voices,
Mm-hmm.
that I wanted to tackle a young adult, because in this day and time, the struggles that they have are 10 times worse than that we could have imagined. I'm a
Yes.
70s baby.
Me
So,
too.
so the stuff that they got going on hits totally different than what you and I could even comprehend at that
Right.
age.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to show him, just, he's funny, but he's serious about his funny at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and he is a young man, a 17-year-old that is weighed down by things of life that no 17-year-old should have to carry
Right.
around. So yeah, he mad as hell. Like he mad like through 90% of the book. He's mad.
Mm-hmm.
He mad at
Mm-hmm.
anybody he can point the finger at. He's mad,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
think justifiably so. He's mad.
Mm-hmm. And he mad at the wrong person. And
Yeah.
we ain't gonna give that away. But the whole time he's like got his guns
Oh,
on one person,
all of them fired. Yeah, yeah.
pointing right at that person, and he should have had them on this person as well. Although what happened to both of them really isn't their fault,
Well, we
because
can tell this much without telling the book. I wanted to. I am I'm I am divorced from my son's father, and
okay,
I wanted to tell a story where all the black men are not always the bad people,
Right.
right? Where
Mm-hmm.
sometimes us women, us black women, and our messiness and our bitterness, we got to stand in our shit. And so I wanted to tell a story where the problem didn't come from the black man. It was this sister right here who had her own demons that she didn't know how to deal with.
Right.
And it affected the choices that she made.
Yep. And she pulled him down with
Yeah.
her.
I wanted to tell a different story because initially Jarvis, which is Trey's father, I was going to make him into a typical black man, just to fuck up, just 3 strikes, you're out kind of guy. And then in the course of writing it, I was like, no, I want him to be that man that truly loved this woman and went down the wrong path. You know, he knew what he was doing.
And it wasn't even that he went down the wrong path. He had his own shit too.
Oh yeah.
Because
that's a whole nother topic.
He was in a foster home with that mean ass pastor and his wife.
I told you this book is heavy on. These character development was just out of this world.
Listen, and I like to think, like you said, black men aren't just these, they just bums and they just out here. No, they've had to choose from, horrible choices.
Right.
The choices they had to make, it wasn't like they had this good thing over here and this, bad thing over here. No, it was 2 shitty choices. And it was, which one do I choose? Which is the lesser of 2 evils, And a lot of us, because, black people, we run the gamut. Some of us are rich, some of us are middle class, some of us are, low income. But we, for those that are struggling and in situations like foster care, like his father was, and, in a low income neighborhood like Trey was, it's not a matter of wanting to do good. It's a matter of, this is the environment I'm in, and these are the choices that I have. And, it's picking the lesser of 2 evils.
Right. If you've been exposed to only one way of life,
right,
that's all you know. Right. And that's what it was with that particular, most low income neighborhoods. That's what it is. You're a product of your environment. It's not that you want to be incarcerated or you want to be strung out on drugs, but this is all you know. You don't have any way of imagining things being better or different, because you don't see that when you walk out your door and sit on your stoop every day.
You walk out, you wake up, and everything around you is lack and poverty, chaos, and violence. It's chaos, absolute chaos. And when that's all your mind is subjected to every morning, how do you develop the mindset to even say, I want to get out of here? A lot of them,
and you don't have an example to go by, but you don't even have an example to go by. You can't say, okay, oh, I saw this person get out, so I'm going to model what Anissa did.
Right.
You don't have that sounding board. So it becomes a perpetual hamster on the wheel. You just keep doing the same shit. You jump off the wheel, you get back on the wheel, and you do the same thing. And it becomes normal because you don't know any other way. So I had to make these characters, I hope, and you tell me, because I respect you highly. You've read probably enough books to go around this world, but did you feel like authentically I pulled these characters off to where they were believable, living, breathing characters?
Yes, I believe that you did. I was a little shocked, though, at the end with Olivia's dad, that he came around the way that he did. I was like, oh, okay.
So, listen.
But I knew. Now, if you had made her mama come around, I would not have believed, because she's just a bitch. She's just a bitch.
But, I am in the next book, which is I'm done. It's called Chasing Happily Ever After. You will see I call Happily Ever After kind of like my reboot, kind of like a Waiting to Exhale reboot, but not that damn sappy.
Okay.
But
not that damn sappy.
But you're going to, like I said, everybody has a story.
Right.
So now you're going to hear Anne's story.
Oh,
and
so she's
why
in this
Anne's
next book.
and why Anne acts the way she acts. Like I said,
So she's,
everything that we do is not
I don't
just
know.
by
I think
coincidence.
I like just thinking that Anne is just a bitch just because she's a bitch because I don't
No,
like her.
I'm gonna make her. You're gonna feel sorry for Anne in this next book. I promise you. Does that excuse her bad parenting? Hell no. But it will be one of those things like, okay, I get it,
Okay.
but still that doesn't justify her bad
Right.
parenting.
You were
If
still
you're a
a
parent, you can be
jerk.
like, there's just no
Right.
compromise on being a fucked up
Yeah,
parent.
no,
And she was a very angry woman. We'll just say that.
yes, she was.
Yes.
Because I was just like, the conversations that Olivia overheard, and
She brutal.
she called her own daughter a bitch. I was like, me and Anne would have been throwing hands if I was Olivia. I was like, Mama or not, you're not gonna stand up in here and call me all kinds of names when you done said all kinds of hateful, hurtful shit, and we not gonna throw hands.
But you
Yeah, I'm
see,
gonna have to leave the house because
but you
otherwise,
saw Olivia was very fearful of her mother from
yeah.
from
But then she kind of stood up to her later. She kind of,
yes, but she just what she did, she created a wall, and
yeah.
she hid behind that wall. But
Mm.
if you notice, every time she had to be in the same room with her mother, the
Oh, the
anxiety, the
anxiety. Yeah.
flashbacks of
Mm-hmm.
all the nasty and inappropriate
Mm-hmm.
and most importantly unnecessary
Yeah.
shit Anne would say. And you were like, but why? Why are you just so mean on
Right.
purpose?
I mean,
But
I know there has to be something back there just based off how all your characters are. And I thought it was interesting too that you didn't really touch on Olivia's parents' backstories. Like you didn't even really give a glimpse at all. We just see that he's a famous, surgeon, and she's the, dutiful housewife
country
who,
club, yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, she had a pregnancy that she wasn't really expecting and all that, but I'm just like, that's not enough to make her the way that she was. So I'm interested to
I
see.
agree. I just give me a chance. I'm not
Okay.
gonna. You're going to
I
forgive
don't
her.
know,
I'm
Anissa.
telling you, you're
I don't
gonna forgive
know.
her. But
I don't know.
you're gonna forgive her.
Mm,
I promise you.
I might understand her ass, but I'm not gonna forgive her. I'm just letting you know
Well,
now.
if you hate her that much, then I think, damn it, I did my job.
You did your job. Yes, you did. Because I will understand her. I'll be like, oh, okay, that's why you're such a bitch. Oh, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
But no, I still don't like your ass. No,
She's
no,
hurting in her own way, but yet it does not justify the treatment. It doesn't. She took
nope.
it off. She took it all on the wrong person. But
Yeah.
is all my characters have pieces of Anissa in them, either
Okay.
my personal experiences or
Mm-hmm.
stories I've had with different clients. Of course, I would never divulge that person's name or anything, but
Right,
all of my
right, right.
characters, I can say there's pieces of a lot of heavy on Anissa. So this book was actually therapy for me as well,
Okay. All
to
right.
kind of let go of some stuff and tell some stuff about me that but put it in a way to where I ain't telling all my business. So I ain't gonna tell you
Right.
nothing else.
Listen, I'll sniff it out. I'll go back
I
and
know you
reread your
will. You're
book
gonna
four
ask me
times.
like, now go ahead and tell me.
Be
I
in
was
your
like, okay, I'll
DMs,
tell you.
like
I'll tell you. We're just not
I'll
gonna do
be
it
in,
right here.
I'll be looking through with a fine tooth comb, going through like, Anissa, wait, was this there? What was that?
It's real basic. Like I can honestly say this because I'm all about being authentic to who I am, and everybody's got a story. And
Right.
I can say what motivated me or what motivates me every day to get up and talk to my clients and try to help people. I've been that person that was sexually molested as a child, and
Mm.
the after effects of what that feels like as an adult,
Mm-hmm.
and the turmoil and the chaos that you deal with. I
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
that person that had the eating disorder. you know
Mm.
I was that person that had women in my lives, and my mother and I can say it, after years of therapy and healing, we don't have a good
Mm-hmm.
relationship. you
Mm-hmm.
know
Mm-hmm.
my mother is some of Anne. My
Mm-hmm. Okay.
other relatives in my family are Anne, so I pulled from firsthand experiences, things like
Mm.
that. And for
Mm-hmm.
Jarvis's circumstances with foster care, My family, because we're Baptists, they go heavy on religion to a
Right.
fault. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I made that situation with Jarvis's foster parent the way that I made it,
Mm-hmm.
because Black people love to hide behind the Bible and threaten you with it at the same time, but tell you to praise it at the same time. So I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just to give
Mm-hmm.
you, so you don't have to DM me. That's a little bit of Anissa. See, now.
Okay. All right.
Hopefully that was enough to pique your
That was
interest.
enough. That was enough
Okay,
to pique my interest. Yes.
good.
So let's switch to the writing side of the show.
Yes.
Why did you choose to become an indie author?
I've been writing all my life. It's like, I remember writing, I started writing poems, seriously, about how much I hate my mother. I can laugh at that now
All
because of
right.
shit,
All
because I had
right.
a lot of
Mm-hmm.
therapy. But I started off
Uh-huh.
really young because I was an only child. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just me. So all I had was a lot of time and my imagination. And I've always been infatuated with telling stories. But I
Mm-hmm.
knew that I wasn't a good enough writer to do fantasy. That takes a whole other type of creative juice that
Okay.
I don't possess, the
Mm-hmm.
fantasy
Mm-hmm.
side of writing. And romance never really was my thing, because I always found the romance that I was reading back in the day that they were very predictable stories. So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to tell stories of real life. So even early on, my poems were all about real stuff. It wasn't about roses red, violets are blue. It was like real
Right.
shit stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
then I kind of transferred as I got older. I started doing short stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
my motivation to start really writing, I was watching Love Jones back in the early
Ninety.
2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let
was
me
it early
guess.
2000s or late 90s?
No, late 90s, because
Late
I was in
90s.
grad school.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And
Mm-hmm.
I love that Black story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I fell in love because before then, if you think about it, we didn't have a lot of Black love stories. We
Right.
we had to watch How Harry Met Sally and just try to
Mm.
relate to those type of white love
Right.
stories.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
when that movie came out, it literally changed how I viewed us, because I'm like, we do have stories to tell. We do have
Mm-hmm.
stories that are relevant, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what really kind of catapulted my desire to be an indie writer. I didn't want to be classified as a Black author.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be an indie
Okay.
writer. Anybody can read this book. It's not just for Black people, but I
Mm-hmm.
will never ever write a book and my characters not be Black. They will
Right.
always be Black.
Right. Absolutely. So, if this book had been traditionally published, how do you think it would have affected the storyline?
I think I think they would have probably tried to make me water this down,
Mm-hmm.
not make it so hood, for lack of a better word, not make it so Black.
Mm-hmm.
But they like to use words like edgy and
Mm-hmm.
gritty,
Mm-hmm.
to try to get you to say, yeah, it's good, but maybe it just don't need to be so edgy or so
Mm-hmm.
gritty. So I think realistically that probably would have been one of the conversations that they would have wanted to have. But
Mm-hmm.
that is also the one thing that I was not going to compromise on. Once I
Right.
got it in my head that Trey's going to be Trey, 24/7, 365, I
Right.
would not have never let him change anything about who he is, because it makes him who he is. And it makes
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Olivia who she is. So they may have tried to water it down so that certain people or class of people weren't uncomfortable, but I wanted the reader to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I made my sex scenes where they were grotesque to people who are still dealing with homophobias, but I wanted
Right.
you to show that the aspect of love, that's what,
Mm-hmm.
and what that
Mm-hmm.
looks like, because people think
Right.
grotesquely of people who don't look like them. So I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
change that. So hopefully
Okay.
I answered your question.
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
So, what is one of the biggest hurdles you feel indie authors face?
Exposure. We are some bomb ass authors.
Yes.
that know
Absolutely.
our craft, we study it, we have individual voices, and we have relevant stories. But unless you are a celebrity, or we don't get the same type of recognition, because there's very few platforms that are willing to give us a chance. You know, I've,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we discussed during your other your summit that
Mm-hmm.
we try to go to the traditional route, and we're left with no other choice but to self-publish, because agents don't want to take a chance on us. They want our stories to make them feel good, where sometimes our stories are a product of treatment from them. So
Mm-hmm.
they don't want us to tell those stories. So they don't accept our query letters. They don't even give us an opportunity to get at the table.
Right.
So we don't have a choice but to self-publish and, grind and tell our stories to as many people that wants to hear them.
Absolutely. So, what do you think we as indie authors can do to leverage the publishing playing field?
I think what we need to do, once some of us start making it, start having a collective voice at the table, we need to then turn back around and pull some people with us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've seen firsthand where the crabs in a barrel plays a huge role in us thinking that we can only help ourselves, and we can't bring anybody up with us. So when we start making it, we've got to give a collective hand for the other people, because what is the use of doing all this work if the only person that's making a difference for is you?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Right.
lame, and that's very selfish. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I
Mm-hmm.
think needs to happen. I think we don't have enough literary agents that
Mm-hmm.
look like us,
Mm-hmm.
and when we do, they have such a high bar to compare to, that they have to be uber selective, and it's got to be that black story that makes the white people feel comfortable. It's got to be something that,
Mm-hmm.
so they skip by, Invisible Lives and all these other great stories by
Mm-hmm.
indie authors.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what do you love most about being an indie author?
Telling stories, telling our stories. I mean, you read it in the bio, and I live by that. Um, I love being a black woman, a confused black woman. I love every intricate detail of who I am, and I wouldn't replace that. And I just take my zest for life and my love of writing, and put them together to where I can tell stories that are intriguing, stories that make you like, okay, this is a good conversation starter, and stories like, oh, I know somebody, because we
Mm-hmm.
don't have enough stories that look like us but can also make us feel good at the end of the day, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So that's what I like.
Absolutely.
And I'm
Okay.
just being true to who I am and telling stories. Now the hard part is I write in first person. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
anybody, if your reader, your listeners know what that means, but you're a writer. Most books traditionally are written in third person. They're
Mm-hmm.
written like somebody else is telling a story. And it makes it easier to write because you don't have to worry about the tenses of things. But for me, I write in first person because I want it to feel like a movie. I want it to feel
Mm-hmm.
like you're watching a movie, yet you're
Mm-hmm.
reading it, so you can
Mm-hmm.
kind of put yourself into those characters and feel like you're Olivia, or you're Trey, or you're Dr. Shepard, or you're Anne, or you're
Right.
whomever else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, what do you have a whip? Do you have a work in progress right now? Are you writing another book right now?
Of course. Of
Okay.
course.
Can
So
you
I
tell us
am
a little bit about it?
Of course. So I am finishing off this kind of story of these ladies. So the first book was called Your Husband, My Man.
Mm-hmm.
Second book is Invisible Lives. And the third book of this like 3-part series, although you don't have to read the books in order to understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's called Chasing Happily Ever After.
Mm-hmm.
I am finishing off the stories of Olivia, Vanessa, and Faith, um,
Okay.
and putting an end to their lives. And then I'm moving on to do a self-help coaching book, but it's not going to feel self-helpish. You know how I do
Okay.
things.
Right.
And that's what I'm working on now.
I do not. No, ma'am. Faith. That just made me think about that. I am not. No, I would not. No amount of therapy would make me be friends with Faith.
Oh, you're
would
going
make me
back
want to know anything about her life.
No, you
No.
listen.
No.
So she's
No.
talking about the first book, Your Husband, My Man, where Faith and Vanessa, it's a story of Faith and Vanessa. Faith has an affair, sort of, kind of has an affair with her best friend's husband. But in her defense, she met him first. I try, but she's she's a victim of, I like to say this. I used to say this all the time growing up. I used to say when I got in trouble in school, because I was like a fighter. I was just obviously screaming for help. She is a victim of her circumstances. That's how I like to put it. But yeah, Faith, okay, never mind. I can't sell you on Faith. But Faith is in this book, and you're going to love Faith. You're going to love Faith.
No, Faith, because Vanessa, because Vanessa is like Olivia's girl. Like, they are tight. And when you revealed that little bit that, Vanessa got divorced because,
Faith slept with her husband. But like I said,
I don't care if he met her first.
Okay. Can we agree?
No, we cannot agree on shit about Faith. No.
Okay, not agree.
Ma'am.
But can you give Your Husband, My Man a chance so you can at least understand the background of Faith? That's all I ask. Is that fair?
I mean, that's fair, but that doesn't mean I want to do it.
You're going to reluctantly read it, like...
Reluctantly, side-eyeing the whole time I'm turning pages. Like, yeah, okay, fine.
Like,
let me see
right
what her...
here.
Right, exactly. Because that's exactly what I said when you revealed Vanessa and I was like, this bitch. And then she going to talk about, I'm pregnant. I don't care.
You see, it's okay. But see, we have stories like that. Somebody
that's trying to self-help coach me in this damn podcast, ma'am. No, we're not doing that.
We're gonna set you up on a 30-minute free consultation and see what kind of help we can get you.
Yeah, ain't no help you can get me, because ain't no way I'm gonna be friends with somebody
We have to forgive. We have to let our egos go and forgive.
Forgiving does not mean that we have to allow those people back into our lives.
You're right.
Okay.
But we all make mistakes that unfortunately can follow us the rest of our lives. And that's one mistake that follows her. But it was a costly mistake that she did learn from. If there's any caveat. No caveats? Okay, I'm done.
Anissa, have you met me?
I'm done.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah, you formed your opinion, and that shit is etched in stone, and we're going to move on. Yes.
Gone. Line drawn in the sand. Done.
I get it.
So, where can readers find your books? Yes, thank you. Shut the hell up and let me wrong.
Okay. You can find that first book, Your Husband, My Man, and Invisible Lies are on Amazon, and they're also on Kindle. Okay. And you can also find Invisible Lies if you're a Barnes and Noble kind of person. It's at Barnes and Nobles. And you can also, if you want my autograph, you can go to my website, anissadblair.com, and I will send you an autograph copy straight from me. If not, you can get it from Amazon. It's all good. Even though Amazon be raping us, but that's okay.
I'm just saying, y'all, you know how I am. Indie authors, go to their website. Get her book from her website. Give her all the money.
But here's the interesting part about it. I've sold a lot of books. Between these first two books, by far the second one has been more successful because I've learned a lot more about the marketing game as it comes along. But most of the books that I've sold have been through my website and through book events. And when I would send people, go to Amazon and post a review, because they didn't purchase the book from Amazon, Amazon will remove their reviews.
Yeah, review,
So it looks like ain't but 10 people, or 11 people, 12 people read my book. It's because most of my books have not been through Amazon, and they won't allow the reviews to post. But you can go to Goodreads
that's
too,
Yeah,
and
Goodreads
see.
is another
And
place.
people don't post reviews anyway. That's like, you do a review, I give you a kidney.
Not a whole kidney.
A kidney, girl. I
A
can't.
whole kidney.
A kidney. Them $25 gift cards is not appealing anymore. We inflation like shit. $25.
I mean, $25. That's like bare. That don't even cover the tax on a
See?
hardcover book now.
Right, right. So that's where
That
you
might
can
get you
find
a
me.
couple of 3 Kindle books. You know.
I try. So yes, that's where you can find all about me. My website and my coaching website is under redesign. So come back in October and you'll
Okay.
see all the stuff on the different services that I'm offering to get us back to where we need to be. For real. For real.
And then where can we find? Yeah, okay. And then, but I still ain't. I don't need your damn help services to get over faith.
No, we're gonna let that go because you have every right to feel how you feel, and we're going to embrace that. Yes, we accept that today, in the name of whoever you believe in.
Yep. That's right. That's right. So where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at Anissa, ANISSA Blair. I'm on Facebook, Anissa Blair. I'm on Twitter. I don't understand Twitter. So don't try me on Twitter because I don't think I'm that profound of a person to say anything on Twitter that would be earth shattering. So you're not gonna find me on Twitter. I try to
understand Twitter, but I can't.
I just feel like I'm too old for it, and that's my excuse. I'm just too old to understand it. It's like one of those things like, oh, what is that again? I'm just gonna say I don't understand it. Yeah, and I have a TikTok, but we're not gonna talk about that because that's another one of those beasts that I just don't quite understand.
Yeah, but I have one. I have I think 5 videos because that's so much.
I don't, like I said, I don't think I'm profound, but I don't know if I'm profound in 30 seconds enough. I think I got to warm up the crowd, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm in there.
You got to be profound. There's so much bullshit on TikTok. You just got to be funny.
I know, and I don't know if I'm funny either. I'm funny to me, but
you funny.
I'm not TikTok funny.
Get up there and talk about faith says, I'll laugh all day.
Okay, we can just do a book club of TikTok. We can do a book club via TikTok. That'll get people to start. Since we don't read anymore, we want to be entertained by video. We can do a book club via TikTok. That'd be a long TikTok.
I mean, there's plenty of bookstagrammers on TikTok, so I mean,
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Well, we have come to the end of our show. Thank you so much for being here today, sharing your time and talents with me. I truly enjoyed the book. Glad you were here.
Do I get a review on Instagram from the famous between? Oh, I saw that face.
I will do a review on Goodreads for you.
Perfect. I'll take it.
I won't do it on Amazon because I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it from Amazon.
They probably won't let you. I mean, it'll look like it posts, but they'll never post it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'll get you one on Goodreads.
You better give me an honorable mention on Instagram. People respect you.
All right, man.
I didn't mean to point at you. That.
I know, right? Y'all see, for those that are watching this on YouTube, y'all see how she threatening me with
I'm a little aggressive. I'm a tad bit aggressive. I'm all about, what they say. I say a closed mouth don't get fed. So if I don't ask, it's on me.
Get you a review on Instagram as well, ma'am.
I am happy now. I'm happy now.
Happy now. Okay.
Yes.
And y'all, you know what time it is. You know how I do at the end of every show. I leave you with a quote. And today it comes from the great Quincy Jones, a Black American record producer, musician, songwriter, composer, arranger, and film and television producer. And he says, "Not 1 ounce of my self-worth depends on your acceptance of me."
Ooh, I like that. If I could snap with both hands, that's on point right there. You should post that on Instagram. That's a good one.
There you go. Yeah. Until next time, y'all, you know what to do. Grab a book and read. You've been listening to Between the Reads. I'm your host, Audra Russell. Thanks for lending me your ear. If you enjoy this content, please consider supporting this independent podcast by becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/betweenthereads or making a one-time donation at www.ko-fi.com/betweenthereadspodcast. That's www.ko-fi.com/betweenthereadspodcast. Tune in next week for another great episode.